The engine room of the Meridian was hot. Kevin Hughes wiped sweat from his face as he checked the pressure gauges for the third time that hour. The numbers looked wrong. They should not be climbing this fast. He was an engineer, not a genius, but he knew when something was broken. Kevin had worked on cargo ships for 10 years. He started as a junior technician and worked his way up to senior maintenance specialist. He was not the type of person who got promotions or special attention. He did his job. He fixed things. He kept the ship running. That was enough. The Meridian was a big cargo hauler. It carried food, medicine, computer parts, and manufactured goods between human colonies across 3 systems. It was not a fancy ship. It was not a military vessel. It was practical. It worked. The crew numbered 93 people, including Captain Harriet Cross. Kevin pressed a button on his communication device. "Captain Cross, we have a problem in engineering. The main cooling system is not responding right." The reply came back slow. Captain Cross sounded tired. She was always tired these days. At 72 years old, she had commanded the Meridian for 23 years. This was supposed to be her last voyage before retirement. "Can you fix it, Kevin?" she asked. "I can try, but I need to shut down the reactor for maintenance. That means no power to the navigation system for about 4 hours." There was a pause. Kevin could almost see Captain Cross sitting in her command chair, thinking. The Meridian was in neutral space. No hostile ships here. No pirate attacks. Just empty darkness and stars. "Do what you have to do," Captain Cross said. "But hurry. We are behind schedule." Kevin got to work. He opened access panels and checked connection lines. He found the problem quickly. A valve had cracked. The cooling liquid was leaking into the secondary system. He worked fast, removing the broken valve and installing a replacement. It took 2 hours. His hands were covered in chemical burns from the liquid, but he did not stop. When he finished, he told Captain Cross the reactor was ready to start again. She gave the order. The ship's power systems came back to life. The lights brightened. The hum of machines filled the air again. Kevin was washing the chemical burns from his hands when the alarm started. Not the warning alarm. Not the minor alert alarm. This was the emergency alarm. The one that meant serious trouble. Kevin ran to the communication speaker. "What is happening?" "Bridge to engineering," came the voice of Lieutenant Noah Price. He sounded scared. "We have unknown contacts. Multiple ships. They are surrounding us. They are not responding to our hails." Kevin's stomach went cold. He left the engine room and ran toward the bridge. Other crew members were doing the same, moving through corridors fast, fear in their eyes. The bridge of the Meridian was small compared to military ships. But when Kevin entered, he saw the problem clearly on the main screen. Ships, dozens of them. They were arranged in a perfect circle around the Meridian. They were not like human ships. They were angular and sharp, with points and edges that seemed to hurt to look at. Captain Cross stood in her chair, gripping the armrests. Her face was pale. She was breathing hard. "They are the Verith," she said. "We have drifted into Verith space. The navigation system must have failed." Kevin understood immediately. The Verith Collective was a civilization of insectoid beings. Tall, structured, hard to understand. They followed rules exactly. No breaking them. No bending them. Their territory was clearly marked on all human charts as "Do Not Enter." The Meridian had entered their space. A voice came through the communication system. It was not in English at first. Sophie Turner, the communications officer, worked fast. She made her hands move across her keyboard, using translation software that was never quite perfect. Then the alien words became English. "Human vessel, you are in restricted space. You have three choices. You can leave immediately. You can be destroyed. Or you can surrender your ship for inspection. Captain Cross looked at Kevin, then back at the screen. She stood up from her chair and straightened her uniform. Open a channel to their command ship. Channel open, Sophie said. Captain Cross began to speak. She was calm and professional. She explained that the Meridian was a civilian vessel. There was no military technology aboard. They had no weapons beyond basic defense systems. They did not mean to enter Vareth space. The navigation failure was an accident. For a moment, nothing happened. The Vareth ships did not move. They simply sat there, surrounding the Meridian like predators waiting for prey to make a mistake. Then, Captain Cross grabbed her chest. Her face twisted in pain. She made a strange sound, like she was choking. She fell to the floor of the bridge. Captain! Kevin moved toward her, but she was already unconscious. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin was turning gray. Medical emergency on the bridge. Lieutenant Price shouted into the communication system. All medical personnel to the bridge now. Dr. Patricia Wells arrived in less than a minute. She was the Meridian's chief medical officer. She checked Captain Cross quickly, moving her hands over the old captain's body, checking her eyes and her pulse. Heart attack, Dr. Wells said. She needs emergency care. Help me get her to medical. They carried Captain Cross away. Kevin watched her go, feeling something break inside his chest. Captain Cross had been kind to him. She had trained him well. She had treated him fairly, even when he was just a junior technician. Kevin turned back to see the Vareth ships still waiting. Lieutenant Price was standing alone at the command chair, looking lost. He was only 29 years old. He was smart, but he had never faced a crisis like this. His hands were shaking. What do we do? Price asked, looking at Kevin. According to the Meridian's protocols, the next senior officer would take command if the captain was unable to lead. Kevin was the senior maintenance specialist. Price was the second in command. But Captain Cross's medical emergency had changed everything. There was no one else. Just Kevin. I will take command, Kevin said. He did not feel brave. He did not feel ready. But the words came out anyway. Kevin sat in Captain Cross's chair. It was warm from her body. He looked at the Vareth ships surrounding them. He had no military training. He had no experience with hostile contact. He had fixed engines and maintained equipment his entire life. But he had fixed broken things before. He opened the communication channel again. Vareth Command, this is Captain Kevin Hughes of the cargo vessel Meridian. Captain Harriet Cross has suffered a medical emergency and cannot command. I am now in charge. I want you to know that we are a civilian ship. We carry cargo, not weapons. We mean no harm to your civilization. We ask only for safe passage. Kevin's voice was steady. He did not know why. Inside, he was terrified. The Vareth commander took a long time to respond. When he finally did, his words came through the translation system slowly. That is acceptable. Follow our navigation coordinates. You will proceed to our nearest outpost for inspection and questioning. Do not deviate from the route. Do not activate weapons. If you do, we will destroy you. The Vareth ships began to move. They did not attack. They simply formed a new pattern around the Meridian, surrounding it still, but this time leading it deeper into their space. Kevin released the breath he had been holding. He was captain of the Meridian now. Not by choice, not by training, but by accident. And the Vareth were watching him very carefully. 3 days had passed since Kevin took command. The Vareth ships had not moved against the Meridian. They simply surrounded it, matched its speed, and waited. Kevin spent most of those days on the bridge, watching the alien vessels and trying to understand what they wanted. Commander Zhao was the leader of the Varath patrol fleet. He had requested a personal meeting with Kevin. The meeting would happen in a neutral zone between the two ships, on a small station that orbited a dead planet in Vara space. Kevin did not want to go. He wanted to stay on his ship, where he understood the systems and the crew. But refusing would be seen as hostile. Dr. Patricia Wells sat across from Kevin in his small captain's quarters. She held a cup of tea, and her expression was serious. "Captain Cross is stable," Dr. Wells said, "but she will need at least 2 weeks of recovery, maybe more. Her heart was severely damaged." Kevin nodded. He had visited her that morning. She was awake, but weak. She had gripped his hand and told him to be careful. She told him to trust his instincts. "What do you think Giles wants?" Kevin asked. "The Varath are logical," Dr. Wells said. "They follow protocol. They have already offered to let us through their space if we cooperate. This meeting is probably just formality. They want to assess your competence as a captain." Kevin stood and looked out his small window. The stars looked the same from everywhere in space. But somehow, they looked different when you were surrounded by enemies. "I am not really a captain," Kevin said. "I fix engines. I maintain systems. I am not qualified for this." "You sat in that chair and gave orders," Dr. Wells said. "You thought clearly when Captain Cross fell. You did not panic. To the Varath, that is what a captain does. Whether you feel like one does not matter." The shuttle ride to the station took 30 minutes. Kevin watched the Varath outpost grow larger as they approached. It was not like human stations. It had sharp angles and dark colors. It looked like a weapon that could also hold people inside. Commander Zhao was waiting for Kevin in the meeting chamber. He was tall, nearly 7 feet, with a body that looked more like an insect than anything human. His skin was dark brown and had a hard, shell-like quality. His eyes were black and empty of expression. But when he spoke, his voice was surprisingly gentle. "Captain Hughes," Zhao said. "Welcome. I hope your journey was not too difficult." Kevin shook his hand. The Varath's grip was firm, but not painful. "Thank you for meeting with me, Commander. I want to apologize again for entering your space. The accident was not intentional." Gilles' black eyes studied Kevin for a moment. Then he gestured to a table where food and drinks had been arranged. Everything looked alien. Nothing looked poisonous, but Kevin could not be sure. "Tell me about your ship," Zhao said. "Tell me about your crew. Tell me about yourself." Kevin did. He explained the Meridian's purpose. He talked about the 93 people who worked aboard her. He explained his own background, his 10 years as an engineer, his recent and unexpected promotion to captain. He did not try to make himself sound impressive. He simply told the truth. Zhao listened without interrupting. His expression never changed. His eyes never blinked. When Kevin finished, Zhao stood and walked to the window. Outside, the Varath ships hung in space like rigid soldiers waiting for orders. "In Varath culture," Zhao said, "strength comes from obedience. We follow the rules. We follow our commanders. We do not ask questions about strategy. We simply execute orders. This is how we became strong." "I understand," Kevin said. "My people are different. We ask questions. We want to understand why." "Yes," Zhao said. "This is what confuses me about you. You do not behave like a commander. You speak with uncertainty. You admit that you were not qualified for your position. You do not boast about your knowledge or your power. Yet somehow, the moment you took command, your crew stopped being afraid." Kevin had not expected that observation. He thought about the faces of his crew when he sat in Captain Cross's chair. They looked at him with hope, not confidence. They had believed that he would try to save them, even if he might fail. The Verth way would be for you to declare yourself superior, Zhao continued, to demand absolute obedience, to punish anyone who questioned your orders. Yet this is not what you did. Why? Because that would be wrong, Kevin said simply. My people are not slaves. They work with me by choice. That makes them stronger, not weaker. Jill turned to face Kevin again. Come with me. I want to show you something. They traveled together through the Verith station. Zhao showed Kevin the ship maintenance systems, the weapons controls, the strategic planning rooms. Everything was organized perfectly. Everything followed protocol. But Kevin noticed something. The Verith workers moved like machines. They did not speak to each other. They did not smile or laugh. They simply worked because that was their purpose. That evening, Kevin requested to broadcast a message to the Meridian. Zhao agreed. Kevin wanted his crew to know that he was alive and that negotiations were proceeding. But he also did something unexpected. He invited the Verith crew to join him for a meal, broadcast it on video so the Meridian crew could watch. The Verith officer who came to eat with Kevin was young, maybe 50 years old by Verith standards. He was uncomfortable at first. He did not know what to do during a meal, where humans talked and shared stories and sometimes laughed. But Kevin treated him with respect. He asked him questions about his family, his homeworld, his dreams for the future. The Verith officer began to open up slowly. He talked about his childhood. He talked about the weight of always following orders, of never being allowed to make mistakes. Kevin listened. Kevin understood. He told stories about his own life, about times he had failed and learned from those failures. He told the Verith officer that mistakes were not shameful. They were part of learning. By the end of the meal, something strange had happened. The Verith officer was smiling. Not in a human way, but smiling nonetheless. The video broadcast was being watched by the entire Meridian crew and by officers on Zhao's ships. Over the next several days, Kevin met with crew members from the Verith ships. He shared meals with them. He listened to their stories. He told them about humanity. He showed them how the Meridian's crew worked together, how they trusted each other, how they succeeded because of their cooperation, not in spite of it. Then something happened that changed everything. A junior Verith soldier and a human crew member got into an argument over a supply delivery. The Verith soldier demanded that the human follow protocol exactly as written. The human argued that the protocol made no sense for the situation. Both refused to back down. Kevin was called to mediate the dispute. He listened to both sides. He did not punish either of them. Instead, he told them both that they were partially right and partially wrong. The protocol existed for good reasons, but it needed to be flexible enough to account for real-world situations. He split the blame equally and offered compensation from his own quarters to cover the damage. The Verith soldier was shocked. In Verith culture, acknowledging shared responsibility with a subordinate was unthinkable. But Kevin had done it without hesitation. The story spread through the Verith fleet like a wave. Commander Zhao called Kevin to another meeting. This time, Zhao's expression had changed. His eyes were focused now, intense and almost reverent. Captain Hughes, Zhao said, your actions confuse me greatly. I have studied human military doctrine for many years, but I have never seen anything like this. What you are doing is not military strategy. It is something else entirely. I must ask you directly, what is your people's greatest weapon against their enemies? Kevin thought about the question carefully. He thought about Earth, about the harsh conditions of the planet, about the wars and the suffering and the disasters that humanity had survived. He thought about how humans kept fighting, kept hoping, kept trying to do better. It is our capacity to believe in something better, Kevin said. Even when things look impossible, we believe that tomorrow can be different from today. We are willing to die for that belief, but we are also willing to offer mercy to those who fight us. We do not want to destroy enemies. We want to turn them into allies." Zhao was silent for a long time. Then he said, "I must take you to the High Council. They must hear this from you directly. But I must warn you, they will not believe that you are just a cargo ship captain. They will believe that you are something far more important. Are you prepared for that?" Kevin was not prepared, but he nodded anyway. He had been unprepared for everything since the moment he sat in Captain Cross's chair. The Vareth fleet changed direction. The Meridian followed. They were no longer heading toward a simple inspection and release. They were heading toward the galactic core, toward the heart of Vareth power, and toward a confrontation that Kevin could never have predicted. Behind them, other ships began to move. Word was spreading. The legend of the strange human captain was beginning to grow. The journey to the Vareth High Council took 5 days. The Meridian traveled deeper into Vareth space, past military stations and patrol fleets. Everyone watched as Kevin's ship passed. Word had spread through the entire Vareth civilization. The human captain who was not like other humans was coming. Kevin stood on the bridge of the Meridian, staring at the screens. Thousands of Vareth ships now surrounded them, not as captors, but as escorts, as if they were protecting something valuable, as if Kevin was something important. Sophie Turner, the communications officer, was busy processing messages. She looked tired but excited. "Captain, we are receiving transmissions from the High Council chambers," Sophie said. "They want to formally invite you to address the council in person. This has never happened before. Alien leaders do not speak to the High Council. What happens if I refuse?" Kevin asked. Sophie hesitated. "I do not think you can refuse, but I do not think they will force you. The way they are treating you, it is like they think you are royalty or something." Kevin closed his eyes. This had gone too far. He was supposed to be a cargo ship captain, not a leader of interstellar importance. The High Council chambers were located on a planet that orbited a red star. The planet was artificial. Humans had built some artificial structures, but nothing like this. The entire planet had been converted into a single city. Buildings stretched toward the sky, connected by bridges and tubes. The architecture was impossibly complex, all sharp angles and precise geometry. Kevin descended to the surface with a small team: Dr. Wells, Sophie Turner, and 4 security personnel. As they landed, they were greeted by High Counselor Vex himself. Vex was older than any Vareth Kevin had seen. His body was scarred from countless encounters. His eyes were still black, but they held a depth of experience that was almost human. He moved slowly, with the careful precision of someone who had learned to value every moment of his long life. "Captain Hughes," Vex said, "I have lived for 400 years. I have commanded millions of soldiers. I have conquered entire star systems. I have made decisions that shaped the Vareth civilization itself. And I have never met anyone quite like you." "I am just a cargo ship captain," Kevin said. "I did not choose to be important. And that," Vex said, "is exactly why you are important." Kevin was taken to a vast chamber where hundreds of Vareth leaders sat in perfect rows. Scientists, military officers, administrators, all watching him with black eyes that saw everything. Vex explained to the council that Kevin and his ship had accidentally entered Vareth space. But what happened next was not an accident. According to Vex, Kevin had demonstrated abilities that aligned with an ancient Vareth prophecy. "For millennia," Vex said, "our people have followed a doctrine of absolute order. We believed that strength came from obedience, from hierarchy, from the elimination of weakness. We have succeeded by these principles. We have conquered, and we have grown strong. But 500 years ago, A prophet told of a civilization that would emerge from chaos itself. A civilization that would be stronger than us because they embraced what we rejected. Emotion, individuality, the capacity to change. We have searched for this civilization. We dismissed the prophecy as myth. But now, this human has arrived. He has shown us qualities we have never seen before. Kevin listened to this and felt his stomach twist. They had built an entire story around him that was not true. "With respect, Counselor Vex," Kevin said, standing up. "You are wrong. I am not special. I am an ordinary human. I was not sent by any prophecy. I am here by accident." But before Vex could respond, the great doors of the chamber opened. An alien man walked in. Human-looking but not quite human. He was tall, with striking features and an air of authority. Behind him came security personnel and diplomatic staff. It was Ambassador Lucas Cole from the United Earth Coalition. "Well," Cole said, looking at Kevin with surprise and then recognition. "This explains everything. Kevin Hughes. I heard rumors that a human captain had impressed the Verith so much that they wanted to form an alliance. But I did not believe it. The Verith do not form alliances with anyone." "Ambassador Cole," Vex said, standing to greet him. "This human has come to us. We believe he represents the leadership of your people." "No," Cole said immediately. "Kevin Hughes is not a leader of Earth. He is an engineer. He works on cargo ships. There has been some kind of misunderstanding." But Vex shook his head. That is exactly what he would say if he were a diplomat trained in deception. His humility proves his worth. Cole turned to Kevin. "What exactly have you told them?" Kevin explained everything. The accident, the medical emergency, the accident of becoming captain. He explained the meetings with Gilles, the meals with the crew, the way he had treated people fairly. He told the truth, exactly as it happened. When he finished, Cole looked at Vex. "He is telling you the truth. Kevin really is just a cargo ship captain who had an accident. But something strange happened." The Verith did not look disappointed. They looked more convinced. "This is what we believed," Vex said. "A true leader does not claim leadership. A true warrior does not boast about his strength. This human has shown us the way of the future." Cole pulled Kevin aside. "Something big is happening. The Verith never call ambassadors to their high council chambers. Something is wrong." Vex then revealed the true crisis. For the past 50 years, the Korath Empire had been expanding through Verith space. The Korath were a civilization of cold logic and ruthless expansion. They conquered worlds methodically, using superior numbers and firepower. The Verith had fought them, but the Korath always adapted faster. The Verith's rigid tactics could not match the Korath's flexibility. "We have lost 87 colonies," Vex said. "Millions of our people have been absorbed into Korath territory. We are losing ground every year. Why do you tell us this?" Cole asked. "Because," Vex said, turning to Kevin, "we believe that this human captain holds the key to defeating them. His way of thinking, his flexibility combined with loyalty, his ability to inspire people to sacrifice themselves for something greater than logic. These are the weapons we need. We want to form an alliance with humanity. And we want Captain Hughes to lead a combined human and Verith fleet against the Korath Empire." Kevin felt the weight of it crashing down on him. They were asking him to lead a war. He was a maintenance engineer. He had never fired a weapon in his life. "I cannot," Kevin said. "I am not qualified." "You already have proven that you are," Vex said. "What else could qualify you more than your actual deeds? We do not need someone with military training. We need someone with your character. We need your people's way of thinking." Cole stepped forward. "Kevin, you need to understand what they are asking. If you refuse, the Verith will fight the Korath alone. They will likely lose. If they lose, humanity loses a potential ally, and the Korath will expand into human space eventually. This is not just about the Vareth anymore. Kevin looked at Dr. Wells. She nodded slowly. What do you need from me? Kevin asked Vex. Come with us to Earth, Vex said. Speak to your government. Tell them what you have told me. Ask them to join us. We will provide military support. We will provide ships and soldiers. But you must be the leader they follow. You must be the bridge between our peoples. Kevin stood there in that vast chamber, surrounded by the weight of history and prophecy and desperate hope. He had never asked for this, but refusing would mean letting millions of people die. All right, he said. I will do it. As the meeting ended, Vex approached Kevin privately. You understand that the moment you agree to this, you become more than a captain. You become a symbol. Your every action will be interpreted by both our peoples. You will not be able to be ordinary anymore. I know, Kevin said. But sometimes you do not get to choose what you become. Sometimes it just happens. That night, as Kevin stood on the observation deck of the Meridian, watching the Vareth ships maintain their perfect formations around him, he realized the truth. The accident that had started this entire journey was not an accident at all. Or maybe it was, and accidents shaped the future just as much as plans did. Either way, there was no going back. The future was waiting, and Kevin had to walk into it, whether he was ready or not. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. The Meridian traveled with 5 Vareth warships, each carrying military officers who studied Kevin constantly. They wanted to understand the human way of thinking. They wanted to learn from him. But Kevin felt like they were studying a creature in a cage. Kevin spent the time preparing his arguments. He knew the Earth government would be skeptical. He knew they would see this as a potential trap, a way for the Vareth to manipulate humanity into fighting their battles. He would need to convince them that the alliance was real and necessary. When Earth appeared on the sensors, Kevin felt something shift inside his chest. Home was not supposed to feel so far away. But the Meridian had been gone for only a few weeks, and it felt like years had passed. President Jennifer Moore called an emergency session of the Earth Council. 50 members attended, all leaders of the different human colonies and territories. Kevin stood before him in the great chamber of the Geneva Council Hall, with Dr. Wells and Sophie Turner beside him. President Moore was a woman in her 60s, with sharp eyes that did not miss anything. She had built her career on seeing through deception. Captain Hughes, she said, you are asking us to commit billions of credits and potentially thousands of lives to a war on behalf of the Vareth Collective. That is an enormous ask. Why should we believe this is not a trick? Kevin told them everything. He explained the accident, the Vareth misunderstanding, the prophecy that had given him a role he never wanted. He told them about the Korath Empire, about the colonies being conquered, about the threat that was moving closer to human space every year. The Vareth are not asking us to save them, Kevin said. They are asking us to save ourselves. The Korath will come to us eventually. They always expand. The question is whether we face them with allies or alone. A council member named Robert Shaw stood up. He was old and he was angry. This is insane, he said. We have no reason to trust the Vareth. They surround your ship with military vessels, and suddenly you think they are our friends? They have brainwashed you, Captain. Kevin took a breath. I was in their chambers. I ate their food. I could have been killed 1,000 times over. They did not brainwash me. They showed me something I had never seen before, a civilization that wanted to change, that wanted to become something better than they were. They did not want us to be their subjects. They wanted us to be their teachers. President Moore was quiet for a long time. Then she said, bring the Vareth commander to Earth. Let us speak with him directly. We will make our decision after that meeting. Commander Zhou came to Geneva. He was the first Verith to visit Earth. He did not eat human food. He did not wear Earth clothing. He simply stood before the council and answered their questions with absolute honesty. You fear that we will use you as soldiers, Zhao said. This is logical. Stronger species have often conquered weaker ones. But we are not stronger than you in the ways that matter for this war. You are stronger. Your flexibility, your ability to adapt, your willingness to find new solutions to old problems. These are strengths that no amount of weapons can replicate. We need you. Not because we are desperate, though we are, but because you are exactly what the Korath cannot defeat. There was a debate that lasted 4 hours. Some council members argued for the alliance. Others argued against it. Finally, President Moore called for a vote. 32 council members voted yes. 18 voted no. The alliance was approved, but the debate was not over. Humans wanted to know what would happen. Would they have to follow Verith military orders? Would they lose their independence? How would the combined fleet be organized? Kevin and Joel worked together to create a command structure that gave both species a voice. They would share command. Decisions would be made together, not by one leader telling the other what to do. It was a strange arrangement for the Verith, who were used to absolute hierarchy. But it was perfect for humans, who value cooperation. Then Kevin did something unexpected. He established a cultural exchange program. Verith officers would serve alongside human sailors. They would train together. They would eat together. They would work as a single unit, not as two separate forces. The first combined training exercise was at a space station orbiting Mars. 500 humans and 500 Verith worked together in a simulated battle scenario. The Verith expected to outmaneuver the humans. They had better weapons and superior numbers in the simulation. What they did not expect was human ingenuity. When one human ship was damaged, instead of abandoning it, the crew of the ship next to it moved toward the damaged vessel. They did not have orders. They saw their comrades in danger, and they acted. They risked their own ship to protect the other. The Verith watched this with confusion. In Verith military doctrine, a damaged ship was abandoned. Its resources were redistributed. Its crew was written off as lost. But these humans had sacrificed tactical position to save strangers. The simulation ended with the humans in Verith fighting as a single unit and defeating the enemy force that should have defeated them. Afterward, one Verith officer came to Kevin. She said, "I do not understand. We sacrificed optimal tactical position to rescue that ship. We should have lost the engagement." "We won the engagement," Kevin said. "We lost some ships, but we won the battle. That is because your people are stronger in formation, and my people are stronger in adaptation. Together, we were stronger than either of us alone." The Verith officer was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "My people follow orders because we trust the hierarchy. It takes enormous faith to accept orders you do not understand. I always thought that humans were weak because they questioned authority. But I understand now. Your people follow orders because they trust each other, not because they trust rank. That is a different kind of strength." More training followed. More exercises. More moments where humans and Verith learned that they could trust each other. Some friendships even formed between individual soldiers. They learned that despite being alien, they could respect one another. Then the Korath attacked. News came through the communication channels. A Korath fleet had launched a preemptive strike against Verith colonies. 5 colonies were hit simultaneously. Hundreds of thousands of people died. Families were destroyed. Entire civilizations were erased from existence. The attacks also hit human settlements on the edge of explored space. Nearly 10,000 humans died. Kevin sat in the command center, watching the reports come in, President Moore was with him. Her face was gray with shock. "They know about the alliance," Kevin said quietly. "They know we are united. They struck first to try to break us apart, to make us turn on each other. Did it work?" Moore asked. Kevin looked at Jill, who was watching the same reports with an expression like stone. Their eyes met across the room. An understanding passed between them. "No," Kevin said. "It made us stronger. Now we have no doubt. Now we know we have to fight. Now we know why we are fighting." The combined human and Verith fleet was mobilized. Every ship, every soldier, every person who could fight was called to service. Kevin was promoted to admiral. Zhao became his co-commander. Together, they prepared for a war that would determine the future of 3 civilizations. As he looked at the faces of the soldiers preparing for battle, Kevin thought about Captain Cross. She was home now, recovering from her heart attack. She had sent him a message: "Do what you were meant to do. You were always going to be more than an engineer." I always knew it. Maybe she had been right. Maybe the accident was not an accident at all. Maybe everything that happened had been leading to this moment. Kevin took a deep breath and gave the order to launch. The combined fleet moved toward the Korath territory. Behind them, an entire civilization placed their hope on a cargo ship captain who had never asked for any of this, but he would see it through. Not because he was special, but because people were counting on him. And that was reason enough. The battle at the outer reaches began at dawn, though there was no sun. Only stars and the weapons fire of 1,000 ships lighting up the darkness. The Korath fleet stretched across space like an enormous fist, ready to crush anything in its path. They were confident. They had studied human military tactics for decades. They had developed counters for every strategy humans had ever used. They had weapons that could destroy entire planets. They believed they were unstoppable. What they did not expect was humans and Verith fighting as one. Kevin stood on the bridge of the flagship, renamed Prometheus Dawn for this battle. The ship was a fusion of human and Verith technology, strong in places where the other was weak. Around him, human officers worked alongside Verith commanders. They moved as a single team, thinking not like one species or the other, but like something entirely new. "All ships report ready," Sophie Turner said. She had been promoted to communications chief for the entire Allied fleet. "Launch pattern Delta," Kevin commanded. The fleet moved. But they did not attack the Korath head-on. Instead, they moved to protect something precious: the civilian transport ships carrying millions of refugees. The Korath had driven entire populations from their homes. Now those people were looking for safety behind the Allied lines. This was not standard military doctrine. The Korath watched with confusion as the human and Verith ships positioned themselves defensively, taking up space that should have been used for weapons platforms and attack formations. "They are making a mistake," reported the Korath commander through their translation systems. "They are protecting the weak. This will reduce their combat effectiveness." Kevin heard this through the communication systems that had broken through Korath encryption. He smiled. "Let them think that," he said to Zhao. "Let them plan their strategy around what they see." The Korath attacked with devastating force. Their ships moved into position and unleashed weapons that had devastated the Verith colonies. But this time, those weapons hit empty space and shield generators. Because the human commanders, remembering lessons from Earth's ancient military history, had prepared defensive positions not in space, but using the gravity wells of nearby planets and stars. The Korath had the better weapons, but they did not have flexibility. When a Korath destroyer broke through the first defensive line, 3 human ships immediately moved to intercept it. They did not match its firepower. Instead, they used their superior maneuverability. They struck fast, damaged critical systems, and moved away before the Korath ship could return fire. This was not how the Korath fought. They believed in overwhelming force and absolute destruction. They did not understand the tactics of the weak, because the Korath had never been weak. But humans had been weak. For their entire history, humans had fought larger, stronger enemies. They had learned tactics from millions of years of survival. They had learned how to make the strongest enemy make mistakes. Hour by hour, the battle shifted. A Vareth battlecruiser took critical damage. Kevin sent orders immediately. All available human ships moved to defend it. The human crews did not question. They did not hesitate. They moved into harm's way to protect their Vareth partners. Some human ships were destroyed. Entire crews died. The Korath watched this and made a calculation error. They believed that humans and Vareth were using false tactics, pretending to care about each other to manipulate the other species. The Korath, who only understood logic and conquest, could not accept that humans would actually die for Vareth they had met only weeks before. The sacrifice strengthened the human and Vareth bond. Every human death was felt by the Vareth soldiers. Every Vareth loss reinforced why humans were fighting. They were not fighting because they had to. They were fighting because they believed in protecting each other. At the height of the battle, a Korath capital ship, the largest weapon platform in their entire fleet, broke through the human defensive lines. It was heading directly for the civilian transport vessels. Thousands of refugees would die if it reached them. Kevin made a decision that Jill still would not fully understand even after the war was over. All ships, halt retreat pattern, Kevin commanded. Vareth battleships form protective wall around civilian vessels. Human ships with me. We are going to slow down that capital ship. Admiral, Jill said, that capital ship has weapons that can destroy 10 of our vessels with a single strike. You will lose every ship if you charge it directly. I do not care if I lose every ship, Kevin said calmly. If we do not stop it, 1 million refugees die. I choose to save them. That is not logical, Jill said. No, Kevin replied. But it is right. The human ships moved in a coordinated pattern. They did not attack the capital ship's weapons. They did not target its shields. Instead, they struck its engines, its navigation systems, its ability to move and aim. They took enormous damage. Ship after ship was destroyed. Crew members died by the thousands. But the capital ship slowed. And then it stopped. The Korath commander, watching his greatest weapon become immobilized, made his own choice. He ordered a full retreat. The retreat became a rout. As the human and Vareth fleet pushed forward, the Korath broke formation. They scattered, fleeing into deep space, leaving behind their wounded, their damaged ships, their pride. When the shooting finally stopped, the silence was almost worse than the noise of battle. Kevin sat in his command chair, unable to feel anything. Around him, officers were tallying the losses. 47,000 humans had died. 63,000 Vareth had fallen. Over 100 ships destroyed. Millions of refugees saved. Dr. Patricia Wells, who had transferred to the flagship as chief medical officer, brought Kevin water. He had not slept in 40 hours. She told him he had to rest. We have not won yet, Kevin said. The Korath are broken, but they are not defeated. They will gather their remaining forces and fight again. This is not over. But we have them on the run, Wells said. We have proven that we can match them. You have proven that humans and Vareth can work together. Kevin closed his eyes. Then he did something that shocked everyone watching. He asked to send a message to the Korath fleet. Jill thought he was making a mistake, but Kevin insisted. The message was broadcast across all military channels, and Korath ships picked it up as they fled. I am Admiral Kevin Hughes of the Human-Vareth Alliance, Kevin said into the communication system. I offer you a choice. You can continue to fight and we will pursue you until every last one of your ships is destroyed. Or you can surrender and join us in building something new. We have lost people. You have lost people. We can keep losing people, or we can choose something different. I cannot erase the past. I cannot bring back those who died. But I can offer you a future where you are not alone, where you do not have to conquer to survive, where being different is not something to fight about, but something to learn from. Gilles almost shut down the communication before Kevin could finish. But Kevin kept talking. He spoke about Earth. He spoke about the terrible things humans had done to each other when they did not understand, and how they had learned, slowly and with great pain, to coexist. He spoke about the future as something that could be built, not conquered. Some Korath ships continued to flee, but others altered course. Slowly, one by one, Korath vessels broadcast their surrender. Not all of them. Perhaps a third continued to run. But a third of the Korath fleet, over 10,000 ships, stopped fighting. When it was over, the Allied fleets began the long process of establishing peace. It was not perfect. Some Korath who surrendered could not be trusted. Some human and Varith commanders did not want to forgive the Korath for their attacks. But Kevin pushed for reconciliation anyway. 3 months later, a treaty was signed. The Korath would be allowed to establish their own territories, but they would be monitored. They would be required to participate in cultural exchange programs, the same way humans in Varith had done. Slowly, the understanding would grow. Slowly, the trust would build. Kevin was offered a permanent position as admiral of a galactic peacekeeping force. Presidents and councils across 3 species wanted him to lead them forever. Instead, he resigned. He sent a message to President Moore and High Counselor Vex. I was a cargo ship captain when this began. I do not wish to be anything more. I have done what was needed. Now I ask to be released from service so that I can return to what I know. Fixing things and helping people find their way. There was resistance. Political figures argued that he was too valuable, too important. But Kevin was firm. He had never asked for this. He had never wanted it. He had only done what was necessary, and the necessity had passed. In the end, they let him go. Kevin returned to the Meridian. Captain Cross had fully recovered. She had asked Kevin to be her first officer. He had agreed. Together, they recommissioned the old cargo ship, and they renamed it the Bridge. Its new mission was not to carry cargo, but to carry messages of cooperation. It would travel between human space and Varith space and the Korath territories, helping different species understand each other. Sophie Turner became the ship's communications officer. Dr. Patricia Wells became the chief medical officer and Kevin's co-captain when Cross finally retired. Commander Zhou was appointed as the official liaison between the Varith government and the Hand.